We caught a lot of our fish out here today off riprap. And let me tell you a good rule of thumb about riprap. If you find riprap, fish it, period. Now fish, you can't really depend on fish being on riprap because they come and go. It's one of those places where they move up to feed and then they pull off of it. But if you go by a piece of riprap, stop and fish it no matter what. If you've got wind blowing on the riprap, you're pretty much guaranteed that you're going to catch a fish or two off of it. Sometimes you can change your entire day by just stopping and fishing a little piece of riprap. But and I know there's a lot of these lakes that's got miles and miles of riprap, or you're looking at several hundred yards, and just stop and kind of pick out the best places out. If you got a little point coming out, you got a little indention, maybe it's a riprap, and you got the 2 points that on both sides of the bridges there you want to fish. You might want to just fish a little bit of it and see what happens. And but fish every piece of riprap that you get around. Now, what do you want to do in fishing those ripraps? One of the key things you want to remember is as ripraps come out, where the water hits the riprap, that's a junction area where the fish are going to be. So you're going to want to hit as close to the bank as you can. And you want to get a bait that will bump those rocks immediately as soon as it hits. The other junction area is down where the end of the riprap is and meets the rest of the lake. Now that might be 3 or 4 foot out, it might be 8 or 10 foot, it might even be 10 or 12 foot deep depending on the lake that you're fishing. So you want to kind of try to figure out where that is and pick your baits accordingly. A great bait obviously is a crankbait to fish those with. Get in kind of close where you can hit as many rocks as you possibly can. You want to bump, this is like fishing anything else with a crankbait, bump into stuff if you can. And a round bill crankbait, a deep bill crankbait is best because it goes down as it hits. You want it to float back up. You want one that can get a lot of depth and bang into it, but when it gets hung up, you can give it slack and it float backs up. Riprap, rule of thumb, fish it every chance you get.